We wanted to tease you at home and in the crowd with that Gigabyte commercial before actually being live. But we're back now, ready for the second game of the evening. Joined once again by a top 16 finalist of Season 1 and, of course, the #1 Twitch streamer of StarCraft II, Rotterdam.
Oh, I'm not sure if that's true, but we're trying, Sean. The dream is alive.
Good to have you here on the desk, Roddy, with us. Great cast first game. Let's get ready to talk a little bit about FireCake, man. It's going to be our second match. We've completed match #1 of the day, and it is Australian that goes through to the winners match. Now going into match #2. We've got France versus Canada. They've never played against each other before, FireCake versus MaSa. What are your first initial thoughts when looking at this matchup?
It's a little bit of a mystery, man. It doesn't happen very often that we have a round of 32 matchup in which we, have such a hard time predicting what's going to happen over here. I think for a lot of the Europeans, FireCake is a clear favorite going into this one. I believe this one is wrong, correct? Because FireCake is going to play against MaSa. But, MaSa has always been a little bit of a mystery. Even in the North American scene, he's like the Terran that everyone knows is really good. Probably the second best Terran in North America after Major. But he doesn't really play in a whole lot of tournaments. Sometimes participates in the big online tournaments. Is always there for WCS. Has qualified multiple times for the round of 32. But never made it much further. And then there is FireCake, who's just been getting a lot stronger over the last 6 months. But, when it comes to styles, these two going up against each other, I'm a little bit in the dark, Sean.
Yeah, a little bit hard to predict this one, but Pig, I know you're a professional Zerg player. I've done my homework on that one. What have you seen from FireCake over the last couple of months, watching WCS, watching his Challenger game coming into this? What is it about him that makes him a player that started to really rise to the top of the ranks in the European scene?
It's interesting. FireCake is a special case. You can't really identify any other player in the scene that's like him, in that he is so sure of his own play styles and he doesn't play within the current metagame. He understands the game his own way and he doesn't ever try and follow anyone else's ideas. We see a lot of roach play from him. We see a lot of different early pool builds, and I mean early pool not in terms of a rush, but a defensive early pool. We've seen 12 pools from him lately against Terran players. Really odd, interesting, unique openings, and usually he wants to get to the mid game and he wants to just spread creep and defend, and he feels very confident if he can get to that point of the game.
All right, well, I want to talk about this point here. When neither of these players have played against each other, MaSa and FireCake, does this favor the player that is willing to study their opponent the most? Because if you look at it on a simple basis, if FireCake has studied MaSa inside out and MaSa hasn't done any work on FireCake, they've never played against each other before, is that a really good way to get an edge over the guy?
Yeah, a little bit, but then again, there isn't really that much to study when it comes to MaSa, other than the WCS games that he has played. He doesn't really go to any offline events. He's never been to a DreamHack, has never made it to an Intel Extreme Masters, other than the one in Toronto. I think he participated in the open bracket back then. So even if FireCake really wanted to do his homework, I think it was easier for MaSa to do some homework on FireCake than the other way around. And like Pig said, but if FireCake is one of these guys like, well, this is how I play, and it may not be completely standard, but I'm very good at what I do. Then it's like, okay, I know it, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to execution. Like, information is great, but you still got to be able to execute the things you want to do at the level that it actually will bring troubles to your opponent.
Well, FireCake had a pretty successful Season 1. He managed to get top 12 in the tournament. Unfortunately, was eliminated from the Season 1 champion, which was Paul, of course, at the end of the day. Coming into this, he must be looking at this group as a group that he advances from no matter what.
I think he's feeling confident, and interestingly enough, at the World Championship Series finals, he was eliminated, sadly, there in the round of 16. He went on to play the French LAN at Assembly associated with it, steamed right through it, took out players like True, showed very good form, and recently has been beating some very strong players. However, there have been some changes in the design of the game. The Swarm host has changed, and that's something even against a Bio-Terran player, he loved to try to get out some Swarm hosts. So he's definitely going to have gone through some changes in his play, but I think he's going to be confident. He's always been a strong Mutiling Bane player. He's very strong with his micro. I think he's going to be confident that if he can stop MaSa's sort of trademark aggressive builds from taking edges, I think he knows or feels that he's the better player in the mid to late game.
Well, another point to look at here as well is currently, of course, in the World Championship Series in the round of 32, Korea leads with the most amount of players that have advanced to the season finals at 4. Second place, France with 2.
And?
Equal with
the Netherlands.
The Netherlands, who also have 2 players gone through. But you've capped out now with the amount of players that you can get through to the season finals. But France has an opportunity here to have a 3rd player go through and be the second leading nation in the season finals, which if you think over the course of StarCraft II, you've had Stefano dominate, but you haven't really seen France be at that level right below Korea ever in StarCraft?
I mean, of course, things have changed right now. It's easier for foreigners to do well in WCS, but it is very impressive. And, you know, you have a couple of... the French scene has always been very strong, whether it comes to the fans or players. You know, they have a lot of lands as well that they participate in. I feel like they play with each other, and it's not just one team, but like the good players are kind of sprinkled over 2 or 3 teams in France, and it creates a very competitive atmosphere within that region alone. And even though you don't see that immediately, over time, you just see that a lot of players in a certain region will, you know, get to that next level. And I think that's what's happening right now in France, because, you know, Lilbao, Marine Lord, FireCake, they're all very, very good.
Yeah, the 3 best players there from France. But let's look at, you know, MaSa for a little bit. The map veto is almost ready. They're just behind stage doing that now for you guys, keep you update. Let's talk a little bit about MaSa then. So MaSa, young player, it's his 3rd time in the Premier League. He's traveled for the first time to Europe to compete within the World Championship Series. Is that a lot of pressure on his shoulders? I mean, you know him better than most of us here, Roddy. You're living in North America, you've seen him compete.
Yeah, but I mean, even I've only met him once over all these years, and that was during WCS Canada when it was still like completely region locked, and that's already 2.5 years ago. I've casted him in a few of the big online tournaments that we had in NA in 2014. He did very well in the Endless game on Blu-ray, made it all the way to the final where he lost against Minigun. That was one of his biggest achievements, but other than that, he's kind of like Major. Like, they don't participate in all this small stuff, and you don't see him that often. I'm not sure how nervous he's going to get over here. I think he's a pretty confident player. Maybe he won't be as vocal about it as FireCake is, but I do think that he looks at this group as well, be like, well, that could have been a lot worse. Like, I think I can do this.
Is he a complete underdog here, like from the casual perspective?
Yes, I would say so.
And then you'd put Aigers up there with FireCake and Mana, and then it's kind of those 3 fighting for positions where it's unfortunately MaSa here looking to kind of rise up.
I mean, especially in the last 6 months, I think like FireCake and Mana has been throughout his entire career the more accomplished players. Then Aigers, you know, he's been doing really good in WCS, but it's still like, it's like, it's Aigers, we want to cheer for him, but we don't think he's as good as the other guys. But I mean, he's proving us wrong over and over again. And then there is MaSa, who is just like, he's not been competing in WCS yet. He's never made it to the round of 16 as the only one in the, you know, compared to these other 3 guys. And that kind of makes him the underdog looking at it from a WCS point of view. But there might be a few players that play custom games with MaSa who would disagree with that and be like, no, he's really good. He's not an underdog going into this.
This may be a difficult question for you, but is there anything stylistically you've seen that we can describe MaSa on over the last couple of years? Something that really stands out about his play, or is it a little bit too hard to know?
Yeah, I think it's quite similar. When it comes to TvZ, I think it's quite similar to Major. I think he has a lot of variety in his openings, at least in the tournaments that I've casted of him a while ago. He's not an only bio player or an only mech player, and has different openings. Will sometimes make a few aliens, sometimes make a lot more. We'll throw in the occasional Banshee, but there's not really that one thing that truly stands out to me. Like, I know his multitasking is good, but that goes for almost anyone at this level, so that's not really a stylistic thing.
And then when we look at the matchup between these 2 players, Terran versus Zerg, is there anything that's really changed in the matchup recently? I mean, it's pretty much traditionally Zergling, Baneling, Mutalisk versus Bioforce. Is there anything that is different?
Interestingly enough, and I've been studying a lot of the matches, and I was looking especially at FireCake's recent matches, and he did have a big loss to Happy recently, and Happy, of course, is notorious for his very powerful mech play, and with the recent Swarm host change, it really was the anchor of FireCake's play against mech. So he personally has been quite vocal that he thinks it's very powerful, perhaps, you know, imbalanced. He's not sure how to deal with mech just yet. So MaSa might have known that. He might be preparing that, and if so, that's going to be very, very good for him.
Well, looking at that first pick, yeah, I mean, me and you, Roddy, both saw that there. Vanni Research Station, the first map picked up by MaSa. Going on to map number 2 and 3, talk to us a little bit about these maps, especially considering what you just said then.
Well, that's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, Varney, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, but Iron Fortress from FireCake. Now, usually that's favored more for the Hellions against the Zergling style. They've got the mobility. It's hard for Zerg to establish the 3rd base. So that tells me FireCake's looking to probably go for some Roach-based play, maybe abusing the fact that the 3rd base is far away from the Terran. He can take some very powerful, aggressive pushes.
And then the 3rd map, did you pick up anything on that then, just before we move on to Vanni? Echo? Just kind of a standard map, no?
Yeah, it's one which just usually ends up in there, but interestingly, it's that rather than Coda. And if you think about it, Echo is very good for mech play as well, very defensive, as is Varney. So it's a very mech favored pool.
Okay, well, players are almost ready. Let's take a quick look then at the first map of this best of three, and you can talk to a little bit more of the specifics when it comes to this matchup then on what to expect loading here on Vani Research Station.
So we do see, of course, in the Zerg versus Terran matchup, a 14 wins to 11 losses, Terran versus Zerg in WCS. It has a bit of a Terran favoring there, but most importantly is the fact that there is that free, easy-to-take base in the back, and the third base is very close to that main. So you've got a very tight formation of bases to defend, very easy to take those three bases, and that's the traditional weakness of mech, is securing those. So this is a fantastic map pool if you're looking to play mech. I'm feeling that MaSa's planning to do that. I think he wants to exploit that very public, very well-known weakness of FireCake since the Swarm host change.
Okay, thank you very much there, Pig, on Vani Research Station. Rod, you got some thoughts on that?
I have one final question for Pig. Do you think, despite everything, we are still going to see some Swarm hosts?
I definitely think there's the opportunity for it. We've seen on Vani before, you can go run up into your opponent's gold base, throw some flying locusts over that gap, but they're a very expensive unit, they're very high in gas, very high in supply, so if MaSa's playing a more aggressive pushing style of mech, there's probably going to be no chance. If he plays the slower style, we're almost definitely going to see them.
I think we've seen Petraeus recently start to really use the Swarm host play, but let's introduce MaSa to the stage here. 20 years of age, currently ranked 86th within the WCS system. Hasn't got that many results to his name.
His challenger games against Australia, I must say, he looked really good. Now, of course, maybe these players in this group are a little bit more accomplished than Australia, but Australia is one of those up-and-coming Protosses, has been for a while, I have to add that, but he's one of those up-and-coming Protosses in North America. But MaSa handled him, man. Like, that was a 3-0, that was very clean. I felt in all games, pretty much from start to finish, it was all MaSa. So he did look very good in that challenger match.
Fourth Root Gaming player to make it to the round of 32, Roddy. Pretty successful season for them.
It's a great teammate.
An invisible FireCake.
An invisible FireCake, he's
chair hype.
He's just upgraded Burrow.
That's his chair, that's where FireCake will sit.
He got picked up in an Overlord, but he'll be dropped soon.
But, FireCake, 25 years old, he's got a decent set of stats to his name there. He's played in quite a few seasons. The last couple he's played in the Premier League, he's reached the top 16, he's reached the season finals of this year. As we mentioned, top 12, losing to the overall champion. He also got another, I think it was a top 32 finish at DreamHack recently, and is starting to really make waves in the European scene. I mean, at the start of FireCake's career, he's a bit of a bad boy. We looked upon in the community, and he was also known for his Swarm host play, but he's starting to gain a little bit more than just those two characteristics to his name.
We saw him hang on for a long time when he was playing Polt, and he was in quite a disadvantageous position at the last season finals, and he still just fought really well. And he used to be kind of characterized as this player with a lower APM, not one of these blazing fast lifestyle players, and yet he still controls these fast compositions very precisely. So FireCake's not a player to be underestimated, and what I think I find most impressive is his confidence. He will play styles where it's like, oh, surely you're getting behind here, and you can see he just feels absolutely no hesitance. He just goes with what he knows, and he's so good at it that he often overcomes these obstacles other players run into.
Well, here's a question for you, Pig, then. We've talked about the likelihood of seeing mech. What is the best way for FireCake to open up this series, expecting his opponent, but let's just assume that we are going to see mech. What is the best way for him to open up here come Vani Research Station, do you think?
I think definitely any sort of relatively safe play with either lots of queens or some roaches can be really, really good. You can kind of plug that ramp at the front, which means you've only got one base where Hellions can dart in. You just got to be relatively good with your scouting, watching out for Banshees and that sort of thing. That being said, maybe we won't see mech. Maybe we'll see Bio, but it is pretty favored here. I think he's just going to come out with some roach play, really scout hard, and he's going to get that Overseer in and try to see what's going on.
Or despite all this theory crafting, we'll just see 11-11 2 games in a row. We've done it 7 minutes.
Could happen. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts on that this series and the second match of the evening. We're going to go to the commentary team for this one. It's going to be Kolaris and Todd.
All right, thanks very much, guys, as we get into our second series of the day. FireCake, a player that has been on that stage many a time now here in Europe, goes up against MaSa, who really hasn't been on our stage here in Europe.
Yeah, FireCake's really starting to gain quite a bit of experience, actually, here in WCS. He probably has like a certain level of comfort here over somebody like MaSa, but MaSa, he seems rather confident. I talked with him a little bit, and he didn't seem to have too much information on FireCake, but regardless of that, he was telling me that statistically, his Terran versus Protoss he's his best matchup, but he feels more comfortable against Zerg anyway. So that promises good things, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm very intrigued to see how MaSa is really going to start playing this out, because for me, he's pretty much an unknown commodity. I don't get to delve too much into MaSa games. With him now flying over here and looking to power on through. Obviously, he had a good challenger result there, being able to make it through to the round of 32. But he finds himself in, not exactly the most powerful of all groups, but with people like Mana, Iagers, and FireCake in there, there's certainly no pushovers, right? So it's a very, very balanced group.
Yeah, I like how you try to sugarcoat, say it nicely. No, but I agree. The thing about MaSa is that even though he's still, fairly unknown to, I guess, some of the population, in StarCraft II, he hasn't played the most tournaments out there. You really need to be, one of the hardcore fans to have caught some of his tournament games. He's been around for quite some time. Once upon a time, I remember I joined Roots, and there was something called Battle Royale, which was basically a format where a few people on the team, usually 3, I think it was, played each other, and we took turns, and then we kept score, and whoever was going to have the best score won. And the first match was me against MaSa, and back then I knew nothing of him, so I was like, who's this guy? I'm just going to macro and beat him. Yeah. And he did something really strange. He did a bunker at his natural, and made a lot of units in his main, fact that he had a command center, but he didn't, and then he did an all-in on one base. So he actually, I think, took that build from, I think, some Korean player, and that really goes to show that not only he can play very well in macro, and he's always had a very, very strong macro, he can also, from time to time, mix in some very special builds, depending on maps and, opponents, I guess, as well. Against Zerg, I feel like this kind of build definitely would be a lot harder. Maybe we see some kind of 2-base, but overall, I think he's probably going to have enough faith in his macro to just play a solid macro standard and just try to outplay FireCake.
I say it every time we actually cast FireCake, but for me, he's become a much more well-rounded player in the past couple of seasons of WCS especially. At the very beginning, everyone was just Swarm Host, and that was about it. But he has been able to play all kinds of styles as FireCake. He's really kind of diversified up his mid-game. It's been powerful across every single matchup. He got here through Zerg versus Zerg, which for a lot of Zergs in Challenger was their go-to when they were able to pick some players going into the next couple of series, because obviously just after the Swarm Host change in between the season 1 to 2, they didn't feel as comfortable against Protoss and against Terran. So, but now he finds himself against Terran. In Season 1, he didn't have the best of times when it came to dealing with Polt, Season 1 champion in the round of 16. But for now, let's see how he's going to play against MaSa here, because as much as MaSa is strong, he's not exactly Polt level strong just yet. So, MaSa likewise, here, going up against FireCake, has got to be a little bit careful, because obviously FireCake can present a lot of danger. So now we are just waiting for this lobby to begin here between FireCake and MaSa. FireCake, he's become a mainstay in Premier League. He's become an absolute mainstay. Obviously, last season's results for him were very, very good, with him being able to get that 9th through 12th. It's pretty much, aside from actually, it's funny, because when he actually got eliminated from Premier then, he ended up going to play the actual tournament that was at Gamers Assembly, and actually won that, being able to beat out people like True all the way up to the grand final. But for WCS there, he got a 9th through 12th place, and that was very, very good for him. His best international result of all time, I feel. And, well, seems like now we will be getting into this game very, very soon here. FireCake. I'm expecting good things of FireCake here in this season. Expecting very, very good things of him. As much as a few tools of his were taken away, we'll see now how MaSa is going to be able to go up against him. For me, FireCake is the favorite here in this series. And we do have spawning down to the south. It is our red Zerg representing Punchline. It is FireCake. And up to the northern position, it's our blue Terran. Representing Root Gaming as our second player here from Root, it is MaSa.
tried to, get some information. I'm the resident Protoss here, but definitely want to do my job well. So I asked around a little bit, I spoke a little bit with MaSa, and I heard that FireCake a lot of the time against Terran, he likes to open pull first, pretty much every single time, but as of late, he's been mixing in a few hatcheries first here and there. But against MaSa, somebody, not going to name any names, somebody really good, a good Terran in Europe told me that he probably was going to play it safe and go for pull first. And then from there, MaSa here, he thought that, he already kind of knew that about FireCake himself. And he thinks that late game, FireCake's macro is maybe not as good as, some of the other Zergs that he's played himself. So, I mean, the vibe that I got from just talking to him is just that he's fairly confident, with playing standard and outplaying FireCake just...
Straight up?
Yeah.
Just straight up, man. Well, it's going to be that pull first, as you mentioned before. So, good scouting out, Todd, to start things off here in this series. And, it's not exactly the most common of builds, right? Normally, you do see that hatchery first, just for them to stabilize themselves in economical fashion. But right now, he's playing this just a bit more safely. I feel that FireCake... I feel that both of these players don't know a huge extent about each other, like really, really heightened levels of knowledge. Yeah. But of course, there are those feeling out notions that you mentioned previously.
Yeah, definitely. I think going to the first game and just playing, a normal style, trying to take it to a longer game could be one of the good ways to really see, where each other's weaknesses lay. And I was also told that FireCake, when he reaches a certain amount of units, he likes to go for big busts to try and make something happen and, either, I guess, pull very far ahead or win the game. But if it doesn't work, then he could be in trouble. So we'll see. We saw actually something like that in some of the earlier games with quite a few Zergs, playing very aggressively.
Yeah. I mean, with the Swarm host change now, they're feeling that, sometimes they have to try and do these things because obviously a staple of their entire metagame for a long, long time was almost completely taken away from them. So, of course, we are seeing that. We're also seeing those really quick 2-base spires as well. Something that we probably won't see here, but, it can potentially occur later.
It was Elaser yesterday who really, he was moving off creep a lot. Every time he had a big count of banelings, he did not only a lot of run by, which was funny actually because I haven't seen too many Zergs do that so much. Like it almost looked like a Protoss player, sending in Zealots in each middle line of the Terran to try and slay down some SCVs. He did the same thing, but with a lot of links and banelings everywhere all the time. So as much as I don't expect FireCake to do this as much here, I think doing, some counter-attacks here and there, or even, trying to go for attacks in general, rather than just sit back and waiting to crush the Terran on the creep, I think we could be seeing, some of these attacks. I think FireCake also, he delays Mutas sometimes for a bit longer than most Zergs, just to get, more ground army to be able to defend the first few attacks.
Like a heightened amount of banelings. We saw quite a lot of Zergs doing that, especially in 2014, towards the end of 2014. But as I said, with the matchup changing a little bit, with those crazy early spires that we've seen in the past couple of days of WCS, anything can happen in this match. And if you are not aware of it as a Terran, those kind of crazy fast spire plays, then you will get punished. But obviously, for now, it's going to be the Roach Warren here to start things off for FireCake.
Yeah, which is definitely going to help here against the Hellbats that MaSa has planned. I really like this build here by both, to be honest. Like this seems to be a very, very solid way to play in the matchup from the little that I've seen in TvZ. Yesterday, though, actually, I thought that the Terran had a few questionable choices, with too much chasing and trying to fight rather than just getting a cancel on that third base. Like, if you think about it, when you... Well, there were situations where Terran had Hellbats against just Lynx and he didn't go for the cancel. And yeah, going up the ramp here is not going to work. FireCake's completely ready.
Yeah, subtle control there as well, pulling the queens back so they wouldn't even take a single volley really from those Hellbats, and making sure that all of his queens are well defending that location. So the switch up, and here comes old Banshee, and let's see what she can do.
I wonder if he's gonna get cloaked to this MaSa here. FireCake needs to not overextend here. If he moves down the ramp and tries to fight a little bit, he's actually starting that hatch anyway. Wow, that's pretty ambitious. Yeah, he's gonna get the cloak here, MaSa. So definitely, gonna force some spores. Already one on the way right now for FireCake, which is still very, very early. I mean, the first bench he was just started, so mistiming that here a little bit. And transform fast.
Run away.
Go away.
Run, run, run.
Creep-wise, he's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
With all of those queens that he made. I really like how FireCake has opened, actually. I think if I was a Zerg player, I'd open 4 queens every game and just spread the creep. Macro terribly, but at least I'd see the map.
Yeah, it would be great. You could see everything. It'd be brilliant. Pig was saying it before, you know, kind of the way in which Zergs are able to establish map control just with creep as that lone mechanic is a very, very powerful tool and something that makes this particular matchup very exciting because Terran has to start clearing that up and denying the positioning and denying anything that, like, the mobility factor from a Zerg. And it's like the slow slow conquering of the map as the Terrans tries to push out.
I wonder how much FireCake wants to get roaches here. He's still going for melee, so I guess he's gonna cut for now. Like, those roaches, supposedly, they really only were to defend against the Hellbats and be safe. And I have to say, he did a pretty good job of that, you know. Not really losing anything early on. Now he's ready, supposedly, for the Banshee with the Spore and a Queen here.
Extract to save that drone from a second volley, but the third will kill it off. And, well, all he has to do really is bring back his queens and... Did his layer even finish up? I assume it... No.
It started very late.
Yeah.
He went for double Evo, you know, like pretty quickly. Now the Baneling Nest is on the way. So, you know, this is what I talked about earlier. Very huge commitment on the ground units to make sure it doesn't die there.
Yeah.
And against air, I mean, at first it's just going to be a few benches here and there, and later on it's going to be the medivacs that he needs to worry about. But he's going to have enough on the ground. That bench is doing a fantastic job. 10 kills, oh my god.
Really, really well done.
What are those drones doing? Like going left and right. Like they are like rallied from the third base to the natural and natural to the third base.
They're on a conveyor belt to the Banshees, and that's all they're really doing. Not much more than that. Queens will eventually shoo away. The first one, nice, good interception there from the extra Queen to come on down. But as
14 drones.
Yeah. I guess he has to replenish somehow.
Look, they keep on going. He's misrunning so many drones here, FireCake.
Oh dear.
This is like the happiest Banshees I've ever seen. Like they literally just sat there. Didn't even have to be really microed. No. Hold position is enough, and he keeps on taking down drones. It's like 21.
It's like usually you have to find a sweet spot with the Banshees, but he didn't even need to have it there.
You know what's crazy? FireCake, look at how many drones he's on. Anyway.
He just made drones and nothing else.
He keeps on rallying them like this anyway. He's like, well, the more you kill, the more I'm gonna make. It's like roaches. You kill 1, 10 more comes out.
Yeah, pretty much. And look at the creep spread still in the middle of the map. Really, really nice. And whoa, that's a lot of creep tumors queued up.
Yeah, the big problem with what happened here is that it delayed the ideal number of workers that you want to be on as a Zerg. So that means that FireCake, he delayed his actual unit production. But by the look of things, he's not doing too bad at that either. 41 army supply to 42. And with the amount of links he's getting now, he's going to be able to get supposedly enough banelings to defend against, you know, the Marines on the ground from MaSa. And now the Spire starts. 12 minutes in.
All right, so how many banelings does he actually have at the moment? 9 extra morphing in, none just yet. But these are morphing in at just the right time to be able to deflect this as long as they're going in that direction. And Centrifugal Hooks has finished.
Oh, I really like the spores here. Since he has Mutas so late, it's really nice to have some spores. Actually, that medivac... Oh, MaSa evacuates early enough. The creep, man. That creep has never really been denied the entire game.
No.
He's almost at the middle of the map.
Yeah. The obviously the Hellions and Reapers to start things off are usually the tool to try and deal with that. But while this entire game has been going on, there's just not really been any of that presence, right? Of course, the Banshees did great, but he just replenished all the workers anyway. And for the most part, FireCake didn't really care too much about those moves.
FireCake is so good at defense, you know. I guess years of turtling with Swamos against Protoss brought him quite some experience with that here as well. But I'm very impressed with him. 86 drones to 65 SCVs. He's setting up the fourth base very nicely, and I quite like his position, I have to say. If MaSa doesn't do any damage soon or take a very, very good fight, which with that creep is going to be very difficult, it's going to be hard. But MaSa's production, I talked to you a little bit about it. He's really good at macro. He's got that second factory at the third base. He's got a lot of barracks, 7.
And this is where he really kicks it into hyperdrive, to be honest with you. And of course, the creep is still extending, and now is basically hit the middle of the map. And this is where MaSa needs to start shutting that down, making sure it's not going to encroach onto his territory. And as you can see, he's already set up to try and greet that if it's to come along. But FireCake is about to max out. He's got 90 workers. So yeah, his economy is great. Yeah, he's going to be able to replenish really nicely, but that might take a dent in his army supply.
Yeah, he has. The thing is, FireCake, he not only is very close to maxing out, he has a very good economy. 94 workers, that's even too much.
Jeez.
Spread out across 4 bases. So right now, I think he realized that he needs to start trading units and maybe force a bad fight out of MaSa. He's going to engage right into him.
A lot of those Widow Mines on the right-hand side were actually burrowed, and a big detonation goes off across everything, but the entirety of the bio was wiped clean from that position anyway.
This is much better for FireCake. Look at how fast he can remake units be. Why is he still getting drones? You got 93, man.
I don't know. But at least he'll have plenty of economy across these 4 bases now. He's getting his gold base on the way but the other side. But, I mean, you're right. Like, all joking aside, it does have a hit on his army size. But keep replenishing and keep trading off. That might not matter too much.
Man, these roaches, they've been alive the entire game here. And they're just going to get in on the action right behind those Lynx and Banelings. Right now, FireCake is trading very, very well, pulling ahead by 80 supply.
The swell of these units, and he can just rally even more forwards. 42 Zerglings in production. He's going to morph the Banelings in straight at the front, and MaSa is going to have a very, very difficult time being able to deal with this. +2/2 is finished, with the +1 weapons for the vehicles as well, actually.
He lost so much army already that I feel like it doesn't matter anymore. Like, this is, I think, going to finish MaSa here. It's going to be almost impossible to hold. He has no bunkers. Pulling the SCV is not really going to help against Banelings.
And here they come. As it probably will be able to cripple the entire front line of that bio. The reinforcements don't do anything. GG, FireCake. That was actually a pretty simple game from him, I feel.
Well, simple in the way he made it look easy, yes.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of StarCraft II professional gaming, he made it look pretty easy.
I'm very surprised at how solid here that was out of FireCake, and I almost feel like MaSa just didn't expect that style here out of him, you know, with the roaches and perfect defense against the Hellbats at first. Yesterday we saw a lot of Terran versus Zerg where people were like taking chances in trying to counter what their opponents were doing, and some of them got very, very unlucky and it went bad for them. You know, if you don't have a roach run against Hellbats, obviously it's going to be the case. And here, FireCake, it almost seemed as if he anticipated everything, really. Made Hellbats defend it, and even though he was misriding so many drones, he made so many of them. That was insane, actually. Like, I can't believe. Like, if I was him, I would have been so depressed. 20+ drones died from like 2 benches, and somehow he was still on 70-something drones.
Just never stop making them, man. Never stop making them. But that does it for game number 1. FireCake takes a lead here in this best of 3. We'll be back after the short break for game number 2 between FireCake and MaSa. welcome back to the World Championship Series here for Group G, as we are currently in our second series of the day. At the moment, FireCake is doing pretty well here in this series, suffice to say.
Yeah, but MaSa, on the other hand, a little bit worrying, you know, the way he played that. After the initial aggression got shut down with the Hellbats, the Banshees, they flew in and they did some damage, but he never really followed up with anything. If you think about it, against somebody that delays Mutas, Medivac drops can be dangerous, but there really wasn't any happening. And when there were, well, there was 2 spores and units ready.
Not too much. FireCake looks good so far here. MaSa has to pull his socks up and get on going, because up to the top right-hand corner is his opponent. It's our red Zerg representing Punchline. It is FireCake. And down to the bottom right-hand corner, we have our blue Terran representing Root Gaming. It is MaSa.
He needs to pull his socks up and keep on going, according to you.
Yes, yes he does.
What a great expression, Kailaris.
If you let your socks fall down when you're playing things like football, not that I play football, then you might trip over.
Hey, what about StarCraft? You play sockless anyway.
That's a lie. This is not true.
All right, on this map, MaSa wouldn't be surprised, you know, if he just basically tried to play similarly, but better. You know, in the previous game, there was some of the things that I thought he did pretty well, like, you know, those Banshees.
Yeah.
Used them pretty well, but everything else was a problem. You got supply block for some time. Not quite the macro, you know, I had hoped for, you know, from him. CC first, very common on a 4 players map, and probably going to be his choice here.
Do you think that MaSa can do something in a similar vein of aggression on this map, like the Hellbats and things like that, and have a bit more success here on a map like Iron Fortress compared to Varney?
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe even seeing something like maybe a few more Hellions, you know, because they have so much mobility. Like if FireCake was to go for Roaches, you can't really chase Hellions here on the map. And then if he goes too far to defend the 3rd, then they can run by the natural. They're going to force a big wall at the natural for FireCake, which can be annoying. Like, you know, there is good counters. Like later on, it can end up kind of playing against him, you know, to have that position. So definitely could be one of the good ways to play it here for MaSa, but he did go. He didn't go for a very quick refinery.
And how do you think about for MaSa positioning his command center up on the high ground? Do you think this is kind of a nice move for him, just to keep like safety, just in case FireCake was to try and go for some links, because he has shown these tendencies of always going spawning pool first in this matchup.
Yeah, I think that's why. I think he knew that FireCake loves to go for that spawning pool first, so he wanted to play it safe. That's also why he's scouting. He wants to see exactly all of those timings. He's going to see the links now and know that he made the right choice. I'm going for CC first up the ramp.
Yeah, it's good lockdown. It's good lockdown. And the first Overlord went up to the top left-hand corner, of course, because you kind of want to check those positions a little bit quicker towards this. And, well, for now...
He's going to get a Reaper. Oh, no. Okay, I thought for a second he was going to get a Reaper, because he really delayed that Marine a lot. So he gets the Marine. And Factory is going to follow here very, very quickly. Yeah, he actually delayed that Marine quite a bit. I guess he wanted to get everything else before. One more SCV, the Orbital Command as well. I really like the quick bunker. It's going to make him very safe against any kind of amount of links early on. And what's kind of bad, though, for MaSa is that he wasn't able to check the main of FireCake, so he has no idea how quick speed is going to be.
Yeah.
But since he knows that it's a pull into hatch, I feel like it's less likely, you know, there's going to be an extractor as well behind this.
I mean, even though we have currently no gas down for FireCake, with it just being added on now, obviously I asked if MaSa could have some good kind of success with aggression. Can FireCake likewise on a map like this have good success with aggression if he were to go for something like that?
I don't think so. Like it depends. There's a few. There's a few good all-ins or busts that he can do, but against somebody like MaSa, and with the way the first game went, like there's really no reason to go for a cheese.
True.
But like if you went for something like Mass Roach Bane, maybe, but most Terrans nowadays, they do a lot better against this than they used to. What I don't really like here out of FireCake is his lack of good Overlord placement in terms of being close to MaSa space. Like the first Overlord went to the left first, and now it's still there for some reason and waiting on the left-hand side of the map. And now, then he plays like a few other Overlords around his base, but that means he's not gonna go and check on anything. What a typical French Zerg, man. Stefano used to never send any overload in and still knew everything he could face.
Yeah.
And FireCake, he wants to pick up that flame. He wants to be that new French Zerg top foreigner.
I guess you know a thing or two about French Zergs, man, so I'm going to trust your judgment here, because it's certainly true at the moment. Although, that being said, you know, these Hellions trying to skirt on forwards, they almost got themselves a creep tumor. It would be good to deny that, because of, I mean, the way spawning positions work here now, because they have spawned in these locations, this creep, if he extends it as far as he was on Valley Research Station, it's going to get going very, very quickly.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I'm very impressed by FireCake's ability to play the 4 queens build with the creep spread and just the defense with the queens. It really feels like it's strong, the way he's playing it.
Oh! Is he going to get the creep tumor?
Yeah,
nice.
But like I said, I really feel like the weakness of this is having to defend against the first few medevac drops. But in the previous game, he did a really good job of that with the spores that he had in position at the natural and having enough units there. It takes perfect splits, but there's still always room, I feel, for Terran to, I guess, use Ignite Afterburners and go to another place. And then finally, when the Zerg will be out of position for just 1 second, then you kill enough drones, or maybe even some tech, and then you start pulling very far ahead.
I mean, still finding little creep tumors here and there. Find a nice little nest of them towards the middle, but those roaches will shoo them away, so they're doing good for now. +1-1 hasn't started as rapidly for FireCake as it did in the previous game. So MaSa does get a slight edge in that regard, because actually he had built his wall off very quickly there with the engineering base. That's quite the vulnerable spot there for them, but I suppose MaSa wants to just keep everything on his opponent's side of the map.
The only way those E-base would die here is if FireCake went for like mass bailing roach bust, but then they tank the damage, and then behind this you would have enough unit to defend anyway, so I think it's okay to put them there. MaSa took the 3rd base on the left-hand side. I think I like that better than taking the other one, because he would have been too close to the Zerg player, and then you would be exposed to, I guess, a lot of attacks, busts, defending against Mutas might be also difficult.
With the layer on the way now, that could definitely come along very, very quickly. And we now have the armory being added on here for MaSa to time out with his 2-2.
Look at the macro hatch.
Ooh,
the position. FireCake wants to reinforce very quickly into towards the middle of the map and fights.
Yeah. And you can't necessarily do that if you don't have good creep spread, right? You're basically just saying, well, my creep spread is good enough to hold you back for quite a while. So you're not going to be encroaching on that kind of location too quickly. So I can easily throw that down there.
Second factory already underway here for MaSa. It's in the main though, not the natural this time, and I think he's gonna start 2-2 momentarily, or did he forget? No, the armory is here, okay.
Actually need to get those Widow Mines going, man. You really need to get them going. Just make as many as possible. And hold
much like in the last game, by the way, MaSa is really not denying creep. I mean, there's no Mutas for such a long time. He could just go to the edge of the creep, snipe some tumors, and then pick up if he's in trouble.
And he hasn't found many drone kills either, which is kind of going to hurt later on. And FireCake's gathered the momentum that he wants. Now these Marines have moved down from the middle, and this creep spread has got to the middle of the map, but now MaSa's denying it here. It's so important once again.
Still no Spire. I'm not sure why he's not starting it.
Lots of Banelings for now.
He might want to go for just a massive burst. Look at this, he's getting a ton of links. I guess he has 2-2 and, Baning speed on the way with another base, so he doesn't really have to attack.
Look at him. He's just escorting this lone queen. He doesn't really... Well, he's actually going to go for the fight now, but...
Don't touch my babies, man. Leave these tumors alone.
I'm surprised he actually went for the fight there. I thought he was just going to escort the queen and make sure he could, kind of shoo it away, but not so much the straight-up engage. Now the Spire is on the way here.
That's very late, but I mean...
Yeah.
He didn't take any damage or anything. Trying to get around... Oh, he gets to wrap around those units. Yeah. There's not enough medivacs to pick up.
It was good focus fire there on some of the Banelings as well. Considering they don't have centrifugal hooks, they can easily do that. And now they've all wandered off of creep without centrifugal hooks. Tries to go for the wrap. And will he kill much more than that? Here come extra Banelings formed into the fight. There's 2 Widow Mines at the back have already been expended. And this Bio is going to have a bit of a hard time actually holding on against this. This is quite the force. Even a lot of SCVs go down in the natural. Oh dear me, FireCake really knows when to go for these attacks. And he's done so much damage already. 20 workers go down.
Yeah, that's pretty massive. I did not expect FireCake to make this series look so easy so far here.
No.
We all thought the same thing, Tyler.
Yeah.
27 SCV skill here. MaSa is down to 41 SCVs against 73 drones, and now FireCake is going to start saturating that fourth base with a regular small batch of 14 drones. I mean, why not?
Well, I mean, FireCake's looking like an animal at the
Yeah.
moment. Going up to about 90 workers once again, and then if he wins this series and goes up against Iagos, a player who is, very well versed against Zerg, that's going to be an extremely entertaining one. But for now, we'll wrap around once again from the Zerglings. There's not really been many Mutalisks at all in this. This first 7 are about to come out now by the looks of things. 12 in production. Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know how MaSa's going to be able to deal with all of this, Todd.
And overload-wise around the map, FireCake did a great job too of spreading those out, making sure he has a lot of vision. MaSa, man, he's not been able to achieve anything in this series so far.
Yeah, not much at all. Of course, as I said, in that game 1, he did get those kills with the Banshees.
The first drop attempts is here, but Mutas are now there, and they're going to intercept as well.
Oh no, it's all a little bit of a disaster here for MaSa to start things off in today's group. As here come the Banelings again, so the Mutalisks have completely free reign over this position. The Bio can't stay there at all, has to boost on out. But if FireCake rejoins all his forces together and just goes for a push, I mean, he has a huge army in comparison. And he's going to actually go for this. The Widowmines have to do a lot of work here, but they don't connect with all the Banelings that they need to. And now the Mutalisks and extra Banelings and Zerglings that are here can just go and clean up once again. The SCVs have to get pulled off the line at the natural. And he's done phenomenally here as FireCake.
I don't know what it is with FireCake and WCS Premier League, Kylaris, but he's playing out of his mind here every single time. And, I mean, this is the least close series I've seen in a long time here in the Premier League.
Yeah, you're right. GG, FireCake, a quick 2-0 here to start his run-off in Season 2. And there haven't been many series like that so far in the Premier League. You are right. That being said, though, MaSa obviously not out of it at all. He will be going on once again to play actually against Mana in the next series coming up very, very soon. And unfortunately for him, he goes up against quite the terrifying opponent as well, because Mana against Terran can sometimes be quite powerful. Obviously, Iagos got the better of him just before.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive, out of FireCake, really. I wasn't sure what to expect here out of his ZVT against somebody like MaSa, who's kind of unknown to him, but I don't think he seemed to care too much. Like, he just had his own game plan, of going into end of ground early on, not to take any damage against anything, then got his Mutas on time, had a great creep spread, had overlords all around his base, and never really took much damage.
Yeah, really well done by FireCake. Well, from one Frenchman to another, thank you very much, Todd. Let's hear from FireCake over at the desk.
Thank you very much, Kylaris and Todd. Good cast as always. Join with FireCake. Another season, another trip over here in Cologne, and you continue to do well. What is it about WCS? Why do you do so well within WCS?
I don't know.
Is it a tournament that you look at and like, I want to do well in here, I'm going to work hard and practice towards this? Does it mean a lot to you playing here?
Yes, that's the tournament I prefer because there are no invitation. There are a lot of points and money. And no, I love to come here at Cologne, and the admin are doing a very good job. I can play here, and I like to be here to play in this tournament.
You've got a lot of success in the last 6 months. You really started to make a name for yourself in the European scene. You disagree with this?
No.
Okay, okay. I'll keep going then. You started to make a name for yourself. What is it about you that has gone to another level? You're now starting to be a consistent contender in the round of 32. Compared to exactly 1 year ago, what's the difference?
I don't really know. It's a bit weird for me because I don't play as much StarCraft II as last year. So I don't know, maybe my work, my training last year finally start to pay off.
But, so a 12-month lag on training.
That's it.
Well, next year you're going to be screwed then if you're not playing a lot right now. One last question for you before I move on to Pig. Self-assessment. There's a lot of good European Zerg players. Pulp mentioned this recently. There's a lot of good ones. Cyril, Snoot, Betrayus playing in Europe, should I say, for that. Where do you rate yourself as a Zerg player? Do you rate yourself one of the best European Zergs?
Yes, of course.
Top 3, top 2? number one?
I don't know because I don't really care about who is the best among the Zerg because we all have to do our best in the tournament. If, for example, if Snoot is the best foreigner Zerg, and but yet he lost in his group, so I don't think this ladder means something. So I prefer to simply focus on being the best I can. And that's all.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the answers there. Pig?
Okay, awesome. You played some very impressive games there, some very commanding play, and I felt like you just went into these games and played the style you like to play. So I wanted to ask you about your opening specifically. You really like your pool first, you like to be very safe. Is it because you like having a very consistent start to the game? Do you like it to always be a very comfortable, same position?
Yes. Yes, I prefer macro and consistent play. Yes, I didn't also, I'm going to play against Yagus. I didn't want to reveal any strategies against him. So I simply played the safest opening and the usual macro game with Ling and Ben Lings.
Still got some tricks up your sleeves then?
Yes.
All right, nice. And one last question with that standard macro style, the roaches. A lot of players don't like to get these defensive roaches. You seem very comfortable getting them. You deflected the Hellions very expertly. Do you think it's something which is completely fine and you can just go into a macro game, not really committing to those roaches, just using them to defend?
I think against a very greedy opening, I am a bit behind. But I prefer to open roaches because I can spread creep everywhere. And that's very good for the long-term macro game.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Pig. And then once again, thank you to FireCake. He's our second player to go through to the winners match here on our third day out of 4 in Cologne, Germany for the round of 32, edging closer and closer towards finding the players, the top 2 players that will advance to Toronto, Canada. Let's take a quick look at the bracket one last time here before we go to a quick commercial break. Confirmed, FireCake, you're in the winners match. You're going to be playing against Iagers. So that game is going to be the 4th match of the evening. Up next, it's going to be Mana playing for Poland against MaSa down in the lower bracket. When we come back from this commercial break, it is going to be that game. Don't go anywhere.